I have a love-hate relationship with adoption. I know, that is an odd sentence to start out an adoption book, and yet it's true. For a long time, I considered myself an adoption advocate, and yet, over the years, I've found myself no longer comfortable with that label. Do I earnestly believe that every child should have a safe and loving family? Yes, absolutely. Do I believe that adoption is the only way to achieve that goal? No. Do I believe that the best option is for children to be raised safely within their birth families and cultures? Of course. Is that always an option? Sadly, no. Do I love adoption for allowing me the incredible honor of parenting our children? Yes. Do I hate the trauma and loss that adoption also brings? Yes. The truth is, the longer I've been in the adoption world, the more I've come to realize that adoption is complex. Rarely in the adoption world is it either or. More often than not, it's both and. And I think that's important to acknowledge up front. Otherwise, the rest of this book might not make sense when I acknowledge pain and trauma, but also talk about joy and satisfaction and family. After my husband Ben and I found out that we were pregnant with twins, I read everything I could get my hands on. I scoured the internet for resources on prematurity, NICU stays, identity development, how to tandem nurse, and so on. Once I got the basics down for keeping tiny humans alive, I started reading books on parenting, discipline strategies, disciplining your children, you name it. I read about it. When we started walking through our first adoption journey, I did the same thing. I checked out books from our library, joined online adoption forums, and read mommy blogs. One of the resources I wish I had was a book like the one you're listening to right now. Adoption is complex. It's joy and suffering and loss and gain and hope and disappointment all in one. From an adoptive parent standpoint, we gain a lot. But it needs to be said clearly that adoptees and birth families lose much during this process. Even when adoption is the best and most ethical option, even when a child gains a loving and wonderful family, he or she will still experience loss. When the adoption is cross-cultural, another layer of loss is added. Loss of culture, language, and community. Please don't let those statements discourage you. We'll talk about all this in due time. On our journey to adoption, I read a lot of perspectives, but none that made space for both the realities and hardships that adoption brings, and the hope that we have in all things, even in really hard things, in Christ. Someone has said that if there's a book you want to read that doesn't yet exist, you need to write it. And so, this is why you're listening to this audiobook today. I firmly believe that we can hold sorrow and joy in the same hand. I believe we can have hope in the midst of hardship, and I believe that brokenness and celebration are all welcomed at the foot of the cross. And I want Christian adoptive families to have access to a guide that boldly proclaims the goodness and glory of God in both the messiness and beauty of our adoption journeys. And so, here it is. A year before our first children were born, dear friends were placed with a child via domestic infant adoption.